Hello there, everyone. How you doing today? I hope you're all well. Personally, I'm doing amazing. I'm in my new slippers, and they are wonderfully cozy. We're going into r/ Let's Not Meet, where there's a guy in a gas station, among other things. Now, if you enjoy, like and subscribe, leave a comment down below, and all that good stuff. Now let's get started, shall we? Guy at the gas station. I was at the gas station and I went up to the register to buy gas and some drinks as I was going on a small road trip. I got there and there was a large, balding man with a ginger beard with the name tag Guy. I smiled at him and was polite since I work customer service and try to be nice to everyone because you'll never know what kind of day said person is having. Guy smiled at me and asked if we've met before. I've never seen him in my life, and I made a joke saying, I just have one of those faces, and laughed it off. I had alarm bells ringing in my head because of his tone. I had a deep, sinking feeling in my gut as he told me his time checking me out. Guy kept talking to me, saying I looked great today, and he guessed my dead name. My dead name that I haven't told anyone in years. I am non binary and hate people knowing. I try my best to keep my dead name a secret. Plus, I was paying with cash, so I couldn't think of a way that he would know. I smiled more to brush it off, trying to imply that wasn't my actual name, saying, No, I go by Royal. He frowned and scratched his beard, and I could have swore I saw bloody dandruff going, or something like that, out onto the counter. I took my change and went out to my car, filling it up as quickly as I could. I pulled out my phone with the intent to let others know my location and just to tell my friends and mom. Feeling hot breath on my dead and someone's body pressed up against my back, I spun around and there was Guy. The most ungodly smell hit my nose as he looked down on me. I am 5'6" and my best guess is that he was 6 foot. Guy smiled. Multiple of his teeth had been missing. He said I was rude for talking to him about him behind his back. I laughed it off and apologized. I went to quickly get the gas pump out of the car. Before I could even get my hands on it, Guy grabbed it from me and did it for me, smirking and saying I shouldn't bother to do such manly things. He went to explain that he finally knew where he knew me from. He explained I was a naughty slave in a past life, and that he was my master, and that he knew my frame anywhere. I am 17 and I have never met this man in my life. I nodded and tried to laugh it off by saying, Oh, really? I didn't want to anger him. The man didn't seem to be happy with that, as I tried to go around to get him into my car. He opened the passenger door to get in, and I was in full panic mode, and had started my car and put pedal to the metal with both doors swinging open. As I drove away, Guy had fallen to the ground and started to scream and curse. I pulled over a mile later and shut both my doors. So, Guy at the gas station. Let's never meet again. The Uber driver who just wouldn't leave. I was chatting to a friend and remembered this creepy story from the pandemic. I, in my 30s, female, lived alone. I had no car and no shops nearby. It was 9 p.m. and I'd got back from work and realized there was no food in the house. So I ordered a grocery delivery on Uber Eats. I asked them to leave it at the door due to COVID rules. There was a knock at the door and I saw a tall, skinny guy standing right by it. I shouted through the letterbox to leave it on the floor and back up. He said no and that he had to hand it to me as it had alcohol in it. I hadn't ordered any alcohol, so I told him he had the wrong order. He claimed it was correct. I told him sternly to put it on the floor and back up. Again he refused. Stupidly. I was tired. What do you expect? I opened the door a crack to tell him to do it due to COVID rules, and he stepped towards the door and put his hand on the handle. I pulled it shut and shouted at him to leave or I was reporting him. He put it down and stepped back. I asked him through the letterbox to back up further. He did, but again when I opened the door, he stepped forwards. I always remembered the chill down my spine when he said, "Pretty, very pretty," in a low monotone voice. I noticed he had his phone out pointed at me and asked what I was doing. He said he had to take a picture, but it was pointed at my face and not the bag on the floor. I grabbed it and slammed the door and locked it. I watched through a crack in the curtains as he stood by the door, pacing back and forth as if he couldn't make up his mind. He knocked, but I ignored it. I was getting seriously creepy vibes and called my best mate for advice. She told me to report him and not open the door. I shouted out the letterbox for him to leave, but he still stood there. My dog, who is normally the sweetest thing around, had picked up on my anxiety and began barking at the door. He turned and got into his car that was parked across the street from my house. I kept watching for the next 10 or so minutes through the window, but he wouldn't leave. He just sat there. But I figured he maybe was picking another order to take. Suddenly a message popped up on Uber. He told me he'd forgotten a bag in the car and asked me to come get it. I checked my order and it was all there was, so I messaged saying it wasn't mine. He got insistent, saying he couldn't leave until I picked it up. He was practically begging me to come to the car, saying it wouldn't take a minute and I could grab it from the passenger side. I lost my stuff. I told him I heard what he said, that I knew he was taking a picture of me and not the order, and that I was calling the police. And he still said I had to come get it. The entire time I was on the phone with the police, he was still messaging me, saying the police would not come. Pick up the order and I leave. Why are you making it hard? The police told me someone would be there within 20 minutes and to stay inside with the doors locked. My dog was going nuts, hackles up, barking. My neighbor's husband, who was 6'4" and built like a brick shed, texted, saying he heard a commotion and asked if I was okay. I told him what was going on, and he immediately ran out, shouting at the guy that the driver was a predator and to frick off before he got fricked up. The delivery guy peeled out of there, and my neighbor came over to make me a brew and wait for the police. I made a report to both of them and Uber, but all I got was an apology from Uber. The police never came back to me. I got a car shortly after, and didn't use Uber again until my boyfriend moved in. So, to the Uber driver who wouldn't leave me alone, let's not meet again, shall we? I probably shouldn't say this on YouTube, but the title is The Pedophile from the Bar. So when I was 17 was 13, I went to Comic-Con with my grandparents in my country, which was held in our capital city. I met up with some of my older online friends who were ages 17 to 19. Yes, I was a stupid kid, and they invited me to a bar near my hotel and asked me to bring my grandparents with me just to be safe. And thank God they told me to. The moment we sat down in the bar, my grandparents sat a few tables away, but still being able to see me, and basically I spent the time talking with my friends. It was nice, but I noticed a man sitting on the same bench as me, but on the other end. Each time I looked over at him, he was closer and closer. Finally, my grandma comes over to me and told me to get up because we're leaving. And so I did. I told my friends that I'll see them the next day. We got to the hotel and my grandmother told me the guy got an erection while always looking at me, and when he got too close he saw him start slowly reaching for me, probably my private parts, under the table. Since then, I never met up with any of my older internet friends in any kind of bar or anywhere. I was young and I was stupid, but yeah. Encounter with a creepy man in a poncho. I've been debating about whether to post this or not, but I finally decided that it's been long enough for me to talk about this. This happened to me and my mom a few months ago back in October. It happened in a very rural part of New Hampshire, like a side road on a side road type of neighborhood. It was pouring out, as it had been raining for pretty much the whole day. My mom had just gotten back from down the street in my sister's car, and I was on the couch in the living room when suddenly I heard the doorbell ring. Our front door had a big glass pane in the front, so we can look out from the inside, and someone can look in from the outside. Through this window pane, I see a man, but I didn't get a great look at him as I didn't have my long distance glasses on. The man noticed that I had seen him and waved as if trying to be friendly. For the rest of this post, I'll refer to him as Poncho Man. I got up and thought about opening the door for Poncho Man, but relented, as I couldn't properly see who it was. I didn't want to let a stranger into the house. Instead, I went down the hall to my parents' bedroom, where my mom was getting ready for work. She asked what it was, and I explained to her that a man in a poncho was outside our door and wanted to talk to us. She went white as a ghost. Immediately, she stopped getting ready, closed and locked the bedroom door, and started checking the windows to make sure they were locked. I asked her what was going on. My mom explained that as she was driving home, she had seen the Poncho Man. He had been standing motionless on the side of the main street. As soon as my mom turned down our road, he started to walk, presumably to follow her. She said the encounter was weird, but thought nothing more of it. Why would somebody be out in the pouring rain down a back road in the afternoon? It's like he was waiting for something. I started to panic as well. My mom called my aunt, the two are like best friends, and asked what she should do. My aunt told her to call the police immediately, so we did. We proceeded to pace around the bedroom, frantically looking out the windows to see if we could see Poncho Man. From where the bedroom was angled, it was impossible to look at the front porch and see if he was still there, but we were desperate for anything. After what felt like hours, we finally saw a police car pull up. We carefully unlocked the door and went down to let the officer in. We explained what we saw, and he agreed to do a scan around the neighborhood. As he left, I noticed there was something on the doorknob. I took it off, and it was a political ad for a candidate that was running for office. It's possible Poncho Man was just campaigning for that candidate, but there are a lot of holes in that story. It was pouring out. Why would you go door to door? And why would you go that route in such a rural neighborhood? The houses are so far apart you'd barely make a dent on foot. The time doesn't make sense either. Sure, I and my mom were home, but it was about 4 in the afternoon. Most people would still be at work, so you would probably get no response by knocking anyway. Eventually, the officer returned. He had found the guy down the road and had questioned him. Poncho Man was able to ID himself and claimed he was a political campaigner and was just knocking on doors for that reason. When probed further, conveniently enough, Poncho Man couldn't provide any other door signs, as the one he had left on our house was the last one, and that makes the campaign story even more absurd. Our house is in the middle of the street. It's not like we were the last by any means. So why wouldn't you bring enough for the whole street? Even the officer pointed this out to us and said that it was unusual behavior. Although the officer was suspicious of him, there wasn't anything he could do about it, as there was no way to prove intent. He told us to be alert and do not hesitate to call if Poncho Man returns. Fast forward a few weeks, and I start noticing that a police car seems to be permanently stationed down the road from us, about a 3-minute drive. I got curious and asked my mom about it, and she said that there were multiple break-ins into the houses down the road, and the police were doing a sort of sting operation. The Poncho Man encounter and the break-ins may be unrelated, but considering how Poncho Man acted, I have a sinking feeling that they are connected. Thankful for the past few months, we've heard and seen nothing of Poncho Man. We got a new doorbell system with a camera, and the police left the area when they were doing the sting. I hope that this whole situation is over and done with, and that I never have to meet Poncho Man ever again.